Right. As far as the business analysis itself is concerned, in the last session, we have discussed about what exactly the business analyst role is all about. So, why business analyst is required. All that we have discussed earlier. Now, today we are going to discuss about the role of a business analyst from the supply chain point of view, because wherein when we see one of the prominent domain, the functionality which is relating to logistics, supply chain, SCM processes, and all everything were prominent in industry. In this regard, so as a business analyst, when we try to understand about the business analysis from the supply chain point of view, from say SCM point of view. So as a BA, we must be having a knowledge over supply chain architecture, because this is something which you can see over here. This is what generally a supply chain architecture is all about, wherein we must understand about defining the current state of supply chain management and architecture. Because when being a BA, when we try to understand to provide solutions, there are two things. One is as is, and second is to be. Okay, you know that, right? So as is nothing but the existing system or existing process. That's where generally we need to understand the current state of supply chain systems architecture is something required. This as is process majorly useful for us to map this to understand the current state of the business process. At the same time, how this can be aligned to the systems essentially required when we are moving towards to be system, because to be system nothing but the kind of target system that we are going to identify. In this process of understanding as is and to be, being a business analyst from the supply chain point of view, we need to identify the process level gaps. At the same time, what are the required pain points, followed by the limitations of the current business systems, followed by the kind of tools that we are going to use for different supply chain management groups, along with the documentation, because documentation is a common activity as a business analyst want to be performed, right? So we need to document the to be process, because as is process earlier we have, now to be process when we are transforming it. So we need to document to be process, as well as system solution requirements for end-to-end supply chain by creating detailed use cases for the process to specify. At the same time, the kind of to be solution that we are going to develop by collaborating with relevant business stakeholders. Next, functional related stuff, because we need to know about the functional testing, defect tracking. All these activities we need to perform from the supply chain point of view as a BA. Documentation, as in when you know, right? So because documenting of requirements that we need to prepare something like functional business requirements document, functional requirements, everything has to be prepared. In this process, even we need to identify the SOPs also, organizational SOPs, which is nothing but standard operating procedures, right? So we know, right? So which is called SOP in short, standard operating procedures that are to be taken into consideration, that we need to be considered when we are following it. At the same time, going through some help manuals or performing some user acceptance testing. So everything that are to be performed as a BA. It's not only about the business skill sets, analysis skill set of documentation, gap analysis, all that, but understanding over supply chain management functions of applications and architectural point of view is more relevant and more important for any BA to perform with. That is something we need to know, so that when it comes to understanding about supply chain management, when we are trying to understand about the role of a business analyst from the supply chain point of view, so we need to provide some solutions. So that's where generally we need to know, right? So there are different solutions as a because we as a solution provider, business solutions I'm talking about, in reference to the business solutions is something which normally we provide. So normally we provide business solutions here in this process. One is about logistics planning, first one, because there are different solutions can be provided in SCM. Depends on the organization, depends on the requirement to requirement. This is something varies. One is about the logistics planning is the first one. Second one, logistics execution. We need to provide solutions even for logistics execution also. The third one about supply chain visibility. This is also even important because how supply chain process will be visible when we are working on it. The next, we should have some knowledge over that. I don't say integration from the API point of view, but we must be having a detailed understanding over the integration of transport management because transport management, supply chain, logistics, all these things are common aspects, one to be known with, one to be performed. So integration over uh, supply chain transportation. Right. So integration of transportation management is also one of the thing that we need to know, right? So what are the integration of transport management systems that we are performing, right? So with some eco systems that we are going to develop, ecosystem applications. Okay, so all these things can be done. This is also some of the key and important element one to be known with. So these are the solutions as a business analyst from the supply chain management point of view. Because if you want to have some domain knowledge from the SCM point of view, business analyst in supply chain management. So it's not only about the as is and to be process, but when it comes to the solutions and the logistics planning, understanding is required. At the same time, logistics execution, supply chain visibility, integration of transportation management with some ecosystem applications, everything you must be knowing. Along with that, regular as a business analyst, because when we are a regular business analyst, we must be having a detailed understanding about the process flow diagrams, right? So because we need to prepare some process flow diagrams. At the same time, let me write down here. Uh, we must write some we have to prepare some process flow diagrams here. Because we use different tools to prepare. We have a star UML, right? So different diagrams, Lucy charts, different tools we are using. So process flow diagrams preparation is required. Next, we need to process because it's not only about the business requirements. Now we need to prepare some functional requirements also. This is even needed. Functional requirements. So process about the functional requirements we must be knowing. That is also something essentially important. Next, when we are working from the agile perspective, you need to have a detailed understanding because different products now and then we are using in supply chain. So we must be having a detailed understanding over uh, product as well as sprint backlog, right? So because this is all as a BA, sometimes we transform ourselves into the product owner role as a BA. This is something required wherein we need to prepare some user stories by defining the use cases and creating some user stories, or at the same time creating some functional aspects of the particular use case that we are going to create. So these are all even important for a BA meant to be performed as a supply chain management side, as a business analyst. This is also something required. Along with that, you need to have some functional knowledge along with the supply chain management as a functional knowledge. Some kind of technical knowledge is required. That's where generally this data modeling is needed, right? So data modeling is needed. At the same time, this is all something as a technical business analyst role when we are applying, this is required. So data modeling, at the same time, data integration, at the same time, the kind of process, because when we are transforming the applications from as is to be, when we are working on the when you're here in the migration process and all, we need to extract the data, you need to transform the data, you need to load the data, right? So there are different ETL processes followed by the kind of tools that we are using. So these are also something needed for you as a business analyst when we are moving on. So if we are working as a business analyst from the business analyst from the supply chain management point of view, these are the areas apart from the knowledge areas as a business analyst, like business analysis, planning and monitoring and all part of career transformation. So these are something which normally you'll be learning. This is what something which we are going to discuss from next session onwards. Because to have knowledge over the domain, SCM domain, you need to know about even logistics solutions, right? So all these things that is needed. Okay. So because unless until if you don't have knowledge over logistics planning, logistics executions, and all, it's really difficult for you to perform. This is all something we are going to discuss. Even when we are preparing some documentation, creating some documentation by following some SOP, subject standard operating procedures, all that things that we are going to discuss. This is all about, and tomorrow onwards, I'm going to start the process of architecture, supply chain process in detailed architecture about SCM process that way I'm going to show you here. So this I'm going to explain you from tomorrow onwards.